The Politics podcast is brought to you, as always, by patreon.com/JURY. It is where we bring you not one, not two, not three, but 4 hours of content every single week, and the price you pay is what you want. It will always be free, but there are people out there, heroes among you, who will make sure that this continues to happen on a regular basis, if not expanding beyond what we already have now. Go ahead and join the party, patreon.com/JURY. But enough of talking about how we get the show. Let's go ahead and start it!
Politics. Yes.
Politics. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. This is the September 19th edition, 2016, in the year of our Lord, for the Politics podcast, the only program that is wasting America's time, one viewer and listener at a time. My name is Justin Robert Young. I am your humble host, taking you through chapter by chapter this, the most barbaric and insane presidential campaign we have seen in the modern era. This is a weird day, because I'm not gonna sugarcoat this one for you guys. We have been in a bounteous harvest. Every time we come out to the village square and pray for rain, lo, there is a monsoon. There is news upon news upon news. Normally, there's a pretty hot news cycle when it comes to a presidential election, and this one has been, just overactive. This is like as hardworking as Andre the Giant's pituitary gland. This election, it is on its game, baby. But today, not so much. Of course, Monday's always a weird time. All the weekends can't be like last weekend, where Hillary Clinton puts her foot in her mouth on one day, and then puts her face into the back of a sedan on the next one, collapsing, dredging up all these health fears, and then on Monday we get to talk about all of it. Mondays are always going to be quiet, but more specifically, you've got this bombing stuff that happens in New York over the weekend, which apparently has already been, I guess, on some level resolved, because they got the guy who allegedly did it, who was sleeping in a vestibule of a bar in Linden, New Jersey. Man, that is a mouthful. And it is great to hear trained professional broadcasters have to say it 50,000 times in their broadcastery voice. Apparently sleeping in a vestibule in Linden, New Jersey. So let's talk about it. I mean, here's the things I don't want to talk about. Test brings up jury, Chris Christie getting screwed over today with the Bridgegate stuff. There's a prosecutor that came out, seems to have evidence. I haven't read a lot about it because I've been prepping for the show. That he knew about the bridge closure stuff. Man, Chris Christie's political career is done. Okay? How done is Chris Christie's political career? I'll tell you how done it is. He had to back Donald Trump as hard as he has. He had to become Donald Trump's surrogate with a full-throated voice, only befitting a man who is scratching a long-shot lottery ticket so he can resuscitate his political career by way of drafting upon one of the most unlikely presidential candidacies in history. So, whatever you think of Donald Trump, understand that from the very get-go, he was not a favorite, right? He has exceeded expectations, but he was not a favorite. He is a long shot, then, now, forever. The reason why Mike Pence is his vice president and he's got, his inner circle is like Jeff Sessions and Ben Carson and the likes of them is because they were not power players before. They were not plugged in to the power grid. So the fact that Chris Christie, number one, I understand that there are a lot of people that live in the tri-state area, right? 8 million people in New York City alone, more than that when you factor in Connecticut, New Jersey, right? But I so do not care about New York, New Jersey politics. Same with like Texas. There are certain parts of the country that have their own very, 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 very specific political scheme, and you really got to get into it to understand it. And I just don't have the energy. New Jersey politics is basically the getting into Chikara pro wrestling. This is going to only delight like 3 people that are listening to this show, but the good news is I've built a brand for which those 3 people are listening to me. I'm just going to leave it there because I'm not even going to describe why it is, except some people are going to email me this weekend and say, yes, Justin, that's a perfect metaphor. Just trust that they're right. So I don't care about the Bridgegate thing. I don't care about how the fact that some mook asshole in New Jersey put together a bunch of rice cookers and then fell asleep in a vestibule in Linden, New Jersey, is going to affect the election, because I don't think it is. We've already seen more pressing, brutal, deadly attacks that I think have been non-factors. I think Donald Trump looking gloating or dumb about it, it does not pale in comparison to how he acted during the Orlando campaign, the Orlando massacre, and I therefore don't think that even though it's this close, the fact that nobody died means that this is just going to be a flare-up. And really, we're only talking about the fact that Donald Trump seems giddy about it because we have literally nothing else to talk about. So we're going to have to find, this is where I'm going to have to prove my worth. Because normally, this was a weekly podcast. I could pick and choose. I could just go ahead and say, all right, well, let's just take Monday sucked, but look, something's going to happen in Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then on Friday I can go ahead and pick up and do the show. I can't do that now because I have 3 days a week, but I have faith in myself. I have faith in you that we are going to have a very, very, very good time together, because I have a big question that I would like you guys to answer for me, and I'm going to get to that in a second. Later on in the show, we are going to talk a little bit more about the thankfully dying embers of this birther hot potato nonsense. And we're going to talk about big, bad Rience Priebus. And we've got Matt Monday. We're going to be taking a look at Virginia and, of course, your emails. I still haven't seen the Jeb thing on the Emmys. If somebody can get me a link. Maybe we'll play that at the end. I heard it was really, really good. Okay, so let's talk about the big question. Big question, guys. If Hillary Clinton loses this race, is she the biggest choke artist in political history? Okay? Question. If Hillary Clinton loses this race, is she the biggest choke artist in political history? Has there ever been anyone who has had the two kind of leads that she had and then gagged like she's gagged? Because let's understand, she had all the momentum in 2008, and Barack Obama overtaking her was a massive upset. That's a gag job, all right? That's a problem. She mishandled her lead and fumbled it. She now comes in to this election with essentially, only a sideshow for a Democratic challenger, which I don't attribute that to Bernie Sanders. I think Bernie Sanders made it as close as he could, but that thing was over from the get. When you already have that amount of superdelegates in line, when you already have that amount of endorsements in line, when the vice president of the popular two-term president decides not to run and you are the only highest-ranking official, you therefore are inheriting the vice president's advantage, then that's not a contest, right? Bernie Sanders doing as well as he was is remarkable for him, but it is unremarkable that he lost, entirely unremarkable that he lost. So the question is, who is a bigger choke job? We have lost our live broadcasts. I have no idea why we lost our live broadcast, but we're going to keep powering through this as much as we can. My streaming computer just decided to start updating here. So we're going to do our best. In fact, you want to know what? We're just going to try. No, you want to know what? We're just going to keep going. We're just going to keep going. Here's the deal. Hillary Clinton right now has a massive lead. And right now, if she is not rebounding by the time that this first debate happens, this will be a major issue for her. And she's going to have to start to face these kinds of questions. She's going to have to start looking at these things. She's going to have to start dealing with her reputation from 2008, because no organization is either more controversial within friendly ranks and more directly connected to the media than the Clintons. They always, when there is internal angst, you will hear about it. So then where are we? What does this mean? What is what is our issue here? What is the question that she has to answer? She's got to prove that under duress, when the chips are down, she can pivot, she can change, she can make the necessary adjustments. I've been reading a lot about the 2000 primary because I want to get into this birther issue a little bit. Number one, I have no idea why this is still a thing. I have no clue why this is still an issue. There's really not a lot of political gain, even for Clinton. Because Clinton has made such a gigantic part of this election be about the fact that Trump is uniquely unqualified to be president. That's like a huge thing for her. But even then, like, the idea, this is so specific, and this is also about the past. It's not about what he would do in the future. Sure, it shows bad judgment, but you can find better examples of Donald Trump being irresponsible or ill-tempered or baited with a tweet, stuff like that. You can find better examples. So the fact that anybody is spending any time on this, specifically the Trump campaign, which, aside from masterfully sending CNN into an absolute shame spiral on Friday, I don't really get why he would want to make it an issue. And the fact that people are going back and forth about this, and the supporters on either side, is just fascinating. So let's go ahead and look at this, because I promised that we would bring up just a little thing. And again, this is for the Hill Dogs. Where the Hill Dogs at? Arr, arr, arr. Let's go ahead and get the official Hill Dog, the official Hill Dog cheer. Hold on, wait a minute. There we go. There's the official Hill Dog cheer. When your conservative or Republican friends, okay, when your conservative or Republican family talk about media bias, this is what they are talking about. Specifically, these kinds of issues. Okay? The issue is benefit of the doubt, and when the full veracity of reporting comes into play. Because I believe what the Hillary campaign is saying, that nobody from the Hillary campaign in 2008 started the birther controversy, as Donald Trump is surmising. That you cannot find a smoking gun. You cannot find an actual Hillary Clinton fundraiser email that pushes that specific issue. And that is different than Donald Trump, who has put his own name on this issue repeatedly. Now, and this is a period, both things can be true. All things can be true. McClatchy comes out and says Sidney Blumenthal, a Clinton stalwart, a hardcore Clintonite, and presumed Hill Dog then, now, forever, went to the foreign editor of McClatchy and said, hey, look, we think this is true. You should go and investigate it. I think that's true as well. Because why would the McClatchy foreign editor lie about that? Was Sidney Blumenthal connected to the Hillary campaign? Not in any official capacity. Is it possible that there was a connection between the official campaign and Sidney Blumenthal? Maybe. You know, doesn't seem like the craziest thing ever, right? But here's we are making these differences. We are delineating these specific issues. Let's go ahead and take a look at this article. This is a 2007 New York Times article about John McCain and the 2000 primary. If you need a refresher, John McCain won New Hampshire in 2000 in the primary against then Texas Governor George W. Bush. He had built a very interesting brand for himself. He was a post-conservative Christian conservative, a maverick. That was his brand, right? And he wanted to go after special interests and all this stuff. He wins in New Hampshire, and now he has to do his toughest test yet. He has to go down to South Carolina and beat George W. Bush, who is a born-again Christian. That is a state that is, especially in the primary, heavy with evangelicals. It is also very often the first nastiest primary. You know, normally things in Iowa are pretty scattershot. It's all about brand value. You just want to get out there and raise your profile. New Hampshire's kind of a weird sprint. Usually choose which of the two, Iowa or New Hampshire, you're going to really go whole hog in. And you visit all the diners and you eat all the crazy food and you go to the state fairs, that kind of stuff. South Carolina is when the rubber meets the road. And specifically, it's when the bank accounts start to get low for the marginal candidates. So the knives tend to come out because it's now, this is like, all right, if I don't win here, I think I'm like done. It's over, Johnny. And it got nasty in 2000. Specifically, you had push polling, a.k.a. calls in which very leading questions were asked. You had flyers that went out on people's cars. And you just had, in general, a whisper campaign of people emailing people in influential positions and saying, hey, what do you think about this? I heard this rumor. They attacked John McCain on a few things, specifically that he was homosexual, that his wife Cindy had a pill addiction, which she did have, but that she was still an addict, right? But most notably, and this is kind of what becomes in political lore the shorthand for this entire scene, is John McCain had a black baby out of wedlock. Now, John McCain has an adopted daughter from Bangladesh who does not share the same skin tone as John McCain's famous political pundit daughter, Meghan, does. But she is not a black baby, and she was not born out of wedlock, i.e., they adopted her. This was false, scurrilous, ugly, and awful. In the same way that the Obama birther thing is false, scurrilous, awful, and ugly. However, this is how that issue is covered. This is a 2007 New York Times article about the John McCain campaign in 2000. The McCain team had trouble nailing down the origin of the dirt. Quote, one time in Hilton Head, we chased these punks down the block who were handing them out, said State Representative James H. Merrill, the Republican state majority leader. He's referring to the flyers, I add editorially. Quote, and when we got them and asked them where they got them, they said some guy in a red pickup truck said, hey, do you want to make $100? Karl Rove, Mr. Bush's political advisor, and the entire Bush team strongly denied involvement. Though it was clear Mr. Bush was the beneficiary of the campaign. When the McCain camp did fight back, it chose Mr. Bush as the target, and that method backfired. Now, let's just go ahead and focus on that sentence. Karl Rove, Mr. Bush's political advisor, and the entire Bush team strongly denied involvement, though it was clear Mr. Bush was the beneficiary of the campaign. So you are name-checking Karl Rove. You are name-checking President or then candidate Governor Bush and saying that they denied it, but it was clear that they were the beneficiary of it. Now, you can write that sentence about what we know right now about the birther stuff back in 2008. You can say that the head of Mrs. Clinton's Mrs. Clinton's political advisor and the entire Clinton team strongly deny involvement, though it was clear that Mrs. Clinton was the intended beneficiary of the campaign. Because who else did it benefit when it was circling around in 2008? Clinton. She'd be the only one. She was the one that was trying to defend her lead against the upstart President Obama. My point here is that it's not that one is right and one is wrong. That Karl Rove was obviously guilty and the Clintons were obviously innocent. That politics is weird and dirty, and when you can't find proof, then you should say that you can't find proof. I don't think that either the Clinton or the Bush campaign, if they were directing this from the very top, would be dumb enough to leave a paper trail. When things are that ugly, that weird, of course they're going to cover their tracks. But that means that you can't just report Well, I mean, clearly they were the beneficiary. Sure, they denied it. That's unfair. That's what makes Clinton supporters upset about the birther issue when you're like, well, obviously she'll deny it, but really, it's like, no, there's no proof. There's no proof that it came off a Clinton letterhead. Proof the people around Clinton seemed enamored with it, right? But there's no proof that it happened. So we are going to make this a point about media bias, right? We're going to make this a point about media bias. And this is the kind of language that drives conservatives up the wall because they feel, and I don't think totally unjustifiably, that this sentence, but it was clear Mr. Bush was the beneficiary of the campaign, will always happen with a Republican, but will never happen with a Democrat. You're not going to see in the New York Times, obviously, Clinton was the beneficiary of the campaign. That language, that editorial voice is not going to be in there when it comes to trumping the burden of proof. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other things that bring you this particular program, including The Contender. You can go ahead and get it at thecontender.us. We just got a great review from gamingtrend.com, 90 out of 100, an excellent rating. They say, really? You want to know what? The only knock on this game is that you play it so much that sometimes you memorize the cards, and sometimes you just got some heavy hitters and people start to lean in on it. But I'll tell you what, they don't have the expansion. They don't have the 2016 expansion. Do yourself a favor. Go ahead and sign up for our mailing list, because there is going to be a very unique opportunity on our mailing list this week. If you want to go to get it, just go ahead on over to thecontender.us. Scroll down. There's a little eagle popping out of a mailbox, and you can sign up for it. I will tell you, if you already own the game, you're really going to want to be on the mailing list this week. You're really, 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 really going to want to be on the mailing list this week, because we are going to sell a product that we have been very restrictive on the mailing list and only on the mailing list. And we only got a few of them. So I would suggest, if you are not already on it, get on it, because you are going to want to be on it, because I'll guarantee you these things will sell out almost immediately. So you better be on it this week when we send it out. Also buy stickers or DIAF. Go ahead and get some of these stickers in your life. $5 sticker packs ship all over the world. All the art in the current stickers are by Carter Johnson. They all feature our Diamond Club logo. $5. The $1 for domestic shipping. $4 for international shipping. Some people ask why it's $4 to get them out to the UK and all the rest of the places of the world. Really, the only reason why it's $4 instead of $3 or $2 is because I always want to price in that I can just send a replacement under any circumstance. So I just, if somebody has a problem, especially international, where problems tend to be more constant, I just want to be able to send out another one at the first blush of maybe something got screwed up. We don't even if you're waiting for a long time, just email me. I'll send you another pack immediately, and we'll make sure that we get the address right. So that's why it's a little bit more expensive for the for the international stuff. But go ahead and check it out. It is stickers or DIAF.com. That is stickers or the letters DIAF.com. All right, let's go ahead and get into Rience. Oh, Rience. Rience Priebus. Rience Priebus went on the morning shows. That's his job. He he's got to he's all right. So here's the deal. He was on Face the Nation. Here's the story here. I'm going to make sure we don't have any autoplay video. That's going to screw up our audio. So here we go. RNC chairman, party could penalize former GOP candidates who don't endorse Donald Trump. Here's the lead from the story by Emily Schultz, CBS News. Republican National Committee Chairman Rience Priebus said Sunday that it's high time for Donald Trump's former primary challengers to come on board and support his campaign, and suggested there could be trouble for them in 2020 or 2024 if they don't. Those people need to get on board, he told CBS's Face the Nation. And if they're thinking they're going to run again someday, I think that we're going to evaluate the process of the nomination, and I don't think it's going to be that easy for them. Several of Trump's former primary opponents, including Ohio Governor John Kasich, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, and Florida Governor Jeb Bush, have not endorsed Trump in the months since the GOP businessman secured the nomination, and asked explicitly whether that meant there would be penalties for the handful of 2016 Republican hopefuls who have not endorsed Trump if they've opted to run again in 2020 or 2024. Priebus said nothing has been decided, but it's something that the party will look at. Tremble, tremble, tremble under the might of warlord Imperator Priebus. Immortan Priebus. Yes, he rules this land with an iron fist. Should you violate his ironclad dictate, he will look at issues down the road. Yes, thunder and lightning, fire and brimstone, they surround Chairman Priebus. For he looks down upon you and says, non-believer, should you fail to fall into formation, I will look at this very seriously in 4 to 8 years' time. I will begin to start thinking about maybe telling you that you're real in trouble in 4 to 8 years' time, because I am Priebus. Priebus, hear my mighty dictates. There is nothing serious about this. This is the most ridiculous. You want to know what this is? This is literally Rience Priebus just not wanting to get yelled at by Donald Trump again. I'll bet you Donald Trump or Kellyanne Conway or Steve Bannon or whatever are just all up in Rience's ear, and they're like, hey, listen, man, we can't have John Kasich going to the White House. We can't have Jeb making all these jokes here on the Emmys. We can't have Ted Cruz getting in fights with Jalen Rose on Twitter and being all out here in these streets and reminding everybody that we have a real loyalty problem within the Republican Party. You need to get these people in line. So he's going to come out there and say, oh, I'm a tough man. I'm so tough. Look at me. Rience Priebus says, people in our party are talking about what we're going to do about this. I mean, there's a ballot access issue in South Carolina. In order to be on that ballot in South Carolina, you actually have to pledge to support the nominee no matter who that person is. So what's the penalty for that? It's not a threat, but that's just a question that we have a process in place. He then followed up by doing 15 push-ups to show what a man he is. Come on, man. Come on, man. Push through. Push through. Priebus, all that is man. When you think man, you think Priebus. And if a private entity puts forward a process and has agreement with the participants in that process, and those participants don't follow through with the promise that they made in this process, what should a private party do about that? If some people don't come around in 4 to 8 years, Priebus continued. He then crushed a human skull in front of the host of Face the Nation and said, that is what happens when you defy Priebus. Priebus might not have his job in 48 years. And also, in 4 to 8 years, if and when Donald Trump loses this election, it will be blamed on two people, primarily a number one, top of the list, Donald Trump. 1B will be Rience Priebus. Because what he's acting like is, well, we're going to really have some issues. We're going to flex some party control because we're not happy with how things are going. Really? That's going to happen. That's happening now. Because I know that I was up to my butthole talking to people when I was in Cleveland for the RNC that was really hoping that you would have had that kind of attitude last summer. That maybe last summer you would be in the mood to start pushing people out of the race so you could shape things a little bit better for the health of your party. Because if Donald Trump is currently running at a 40% likelihood to win the presidency based on the most recent 538 model, then imagine what a candidate who has actual bona fides and was not insulting a Gold Star family and calling a man from Iowa Mexican would do. I mean, just theoretically, just hypothetically, I'm just being honest. So I think that there's a very, I love this quote. I love it because it is just like that quote is the I already mentioned Jalen Rose once because he was fighting with Ted Cruz on Twitter. This is I've been dropping references to that podcast a lot. Follow that podcast. This is the hold me back of political tough talk, right? It's like, oh, man, you better straighten up. You better straighten up because, listen, if I wasn't being held back right now, I would really be doing some stuff, man. You better watch out in 4 to 8 years. Also, why are you mentioning 4 to 8 years? You should not be mentioning 4 to 8 years. If you're running the party, like you should be saying in 8 years. Also, you should, this just has all the wrong messaging all over all of it, right? Because why isn't that hey, look, their careers are going to be damaged because when Trump is president for 8 years, he is going to be that they will have to fall in line, and it will be better for them for the next 8 years, especially if they want to run 8 years from now. It'll be better for them the sooner they get on the train. I mean, that's what you have to say, right? Or just not look like you are, you just look so weak. So weak. Like, I'm going to have a talking to Jeb Bush, John Kasich, and Ted Cruz. Because I'll let you know, John Kasich seems like a real tough Schrodinger's governor. Seems like a real kind of prickly pear to deal with. And Jeb Bush probably's got a real ego on him, right? Because he comes from a political dynasty. And Ted Cruz seems like a fairly intolerable person to be around based on the reactions that other people have to him. But at the same time, it's not like any of them seem like they are the biggest threats in the world. You're running the party. You should be able to have their ear. I don't know. Hey, how about this? Let's go ahead and get into this map. It's Map Monday. Every Monday we go ahead and take a look at a certain state. Let's go to Virginia. Let's get a little Virginia music here. Who will win Virginia based on the 538 current model? We have 74.9% for Hillary Clinton, 25% for Donald Trump. Why is Virginia important? I picked Virginia because the biggest question that seems to be on the mind of people that pay attention to these kinds of shows is from liberals, from the Hill Dogs, is Either when do we have to get into panic mode? And from the Trump fans, it is when do we know that this is like for real on like Donkey Kong? Because Virginia is probably like the closer Virginia gets, the more Hillary needs to worry and Trump needs to be excited. Now, there was a point in which Hillary was up. Let's look at some of these earlier polls here. August 7th through the 17th, the Roanoke College poll had Clinton up 16. The Marist College poll here. Let's go ahead and get my face out of here so you guys can get a better look at this. You've got all these double-digit polling from early August to mid-August. August 2nd to the 16th, 4 different polls has Clinton up double digits, right? Then as Clinton nationally starts to slide through the backside of August and the beginning of September, you start to see that chip away from 7. And now you got these 2 polls in late August, Emerson College and Hampton University at +2, +1. Now, the latest one that just came out last week was Clinton up 6. But if you really want to look at, as Trump starts to gain, if you look at the firewalls, like the things that if they break, it's a major issue, I don't think there's a bigger one outside of Pennsylvania than Virginia. Because remember, Hillary Clinton could have picked anybody for her vice president. She wound up picking Tim Kaine, who's very popular in Virginia. They obviously have in their map, that is a crown jewel. So, you can mix and match losing Michigan's, Wisconsin's, North Carolina's, Colorado's, right? At some point, those Jenga blocks kind of come together and they're going to make what they make. But there are certain states that you simply can't lose. There's obviously untouchables, right? For Democrats, that's California, New York. For Republicans, it's Texas, stuff like that. The Midwest in general. But you cannot lose the elements that make up your new base. They are running on Obama's base, and Virginia is a huge, huge, huge part of that. So you want to start panicking, Clinton supporters? Start panicking. Your butthole gets tighter the tighter that race comes in Virginia. That's a fact. You want to get excited, Trump fans? Listen, Ohio, Florida, they're going to keep going back and forth. Pennsylvania, Virginia. The tighter those get, especially because you're dealing with favorable Trump demographics, blue-collar whites in both those states, if they start getting tighter, especially past the debates, man, we are in for a Pier 6 brawl. All right, let's go ahead and get to your emails. It is theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Again, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. We're going to save our tortured metaphor for the end. I do want to thank everybody. The emails have just been getting out of control. You guys are awesome. You guys are amazing. My biggest worry about going to 3 days a week was that we were going to be spreading 1 week's worth of emails over 3 days. I still have to pick and choose emails because you guys are emailing so much more. So keep doing it. theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Also, I'm going to start reading first and last names just because I think that's always a fun thing when you hear your name in full on a podcast. If you don't want me to say your full last name, I'm just going to go. If you don't sign it, I'm just going to go by what the email says it is. Okay, so here we go. Joshua Nada says, would you like to talk about the recent switch from registered voter polls to likely voter polls on your show? I think that might be illuminating in face of the tightening. P.S. Can you smoke weed with a vape pen? I'm asking for a friend who lives in D.C. So I do not pick necessarily likely voters versus registered voters. Polls don't come out all the time, so I'm at the mercy, like everybody is, based on when these polls come out and what methodology they pick to use. I don't think that there's really anything. There's been enough polls that have come out that have used both methodologies that I don't think that that's much of an issue. In general, what you need to watch out for now is daily tracking polls are very volatile by nature. So keep an eye on the synthesis of the gang of them, of daily tracking national polls, and pick and choose which states you're watching. That's what I'm doing. By the way, this is a good time for me to remind you guys that I am not a political science expert. I'm just a guy. I'm just the guy who likes this stuff. So I do not know for sure, except for trying to read and summarize from other smart people what to do, and in general, sharing my own personal methodology of how I like to follow stuff. So what I do is I try to follow Upshot, 538, a lot of these big meta polls, and then take a look specifically at battleground polls that come out. Because in general, I think those are probably the tighter finger on the pulse of the election, and the daily tracking polls are just kind of going to be what they are. They're more of a reflection of just the race as a whole, what people generally think, than it is necessarily indicative of who's going to win. And of course you can smoke weed out of a vape pen. What is Aleppo? Eric Atkinson writes, something's really been bugging me about this election, and I can't think of anyone better to ask than the hairy guy who bellows the last days of American democracy in his strip club DJ voice. Is voting a civic duty where we come together to decide which of two flawed candidates will be best to lead our country through the coming trials, or is it a means of self-expression where we as individuals declare the mood of the country? Does the whole high-pitched mocking tone, neither candidate really appeals to me, so I'll be writing in Harambe Sanders, hold any water if only two people have a shot at a leader of the freeish, if only two people have a shot to be the leader of the freeish world? Or is that bullying our one actual form of political expression? This is something that gets people angry at me. And I'm probably going to go on a larger monologue about it as we get closer to Election Day, because I want to piss off as many people as possible. But I believe that voting in general is overrated, and I believe anybody who just tells you to vote, no matter what, is disingenuous, and that they are really only trying to get you to vote for their candidate. So I believe that voting is personal. I believe that voting is a reflection of how you see the world. I think it is a form of political expression. And whether or not you choose to, package that with proselytization, to try to bring more into your flock is up to you. They're both forms of political expression. Some people do it quietly. Some people do it loudly. But I don't think it's a civic duty. No. You want to know who has 100% voter participation? North Korea. Ned Jeffrey writes, things I learned. Alexander Hamilton was challenged to a duel and subsequently shot and killed by Vice President Aaron Burr. This was because he said something insulting. Man, someone should make a musical about that. This got me thinking. Hillary calls Trump a racist. Trump calls Hillary a criminal. How about we just take a trip to Weehawken, New Jersey, meet up on the banks of the Hudson, and get this all sorted out before November? Unlike the current situation, no matter the outcome, very few people will be happy about it. If we settle it by duel, at least 50% of the people will be happy that one of them is dead. P.S. This does not constitute inciting violence. It's a joke. Please don't throw me in Gitmo. I don't know. Pretty close. Richard Veitch says, just finished listening to your latest Politicsx podcast, and it brought up a question I've been thinking of for a while. When a news organization is covering a political campaign, where is the line between political rally and a press conference drawn? It seems like the rule is that it's okay to broadcast a press conference live, but a rally or political speech should only be reported on after the fact. Since the rallies are reported on extensively anyway, why not just broadcast them? Well, this is where you kind of got into some of the biggest problems with, the narrative that the media created Trump, because they covered Trump rallies as if they were news events. A lot of this is because Trump was a very man bites dog kind of candidate, right? He was somebody that you didn't expect to run for president. He was a very famous person, especially by political standards. And, that's why he got a lot of airtime. I believe that we should cover rallies because I think that the idea that we have very, very precious platforms is kind of over. It's an outdated model. CNN was really, really upset that they ran that Trump press conference because they feel that they have a very important stage and Trump wasted it by lying to them and saying that he was going to, this is CNN's point of view, that he was going to say something and he deliberately waited 45 minutes to do a whole campaign rally knowing that all the cameras were on him and then said 2 sentences and they weren't very good 2 sentences. But I think that this is kind of alleviated if we stop thinking about it as such a precious stage. Why not put every Clinton rally, every Trump rally on CNN too? Or actually build up your online platform as something that's very important. And then say, hey, look, if you want to watch all of this, download our CNN app, download our Apple TV app. You can watch it there. And even maybe during the political season, make it free. But we are going to pull from that when we feel there is something to report. I think that would have been a better way to do it, instead of just getting like mega butthurt and screaming and yelling about it. You want to know what? We're going to do the torture metaphor now because I have one more email that is just godlike that I have to read after this. Okay, torture metaphor. Miles with a Y Wanstall says, I don't know if this counts as a pop culture or film classic, but to me, this election is Rocky. Trump takes the role of the title character and Hillary is Apollo Creed. Hillary is essentially the incumbent, the champion, who is favored to win against any opponent who faces her. His opponent, however, does not come from the pool of professionals, but is a blue-collar amateur. Bit of a stretch for Trump, but I'll follow. It is tortured, after all. Hillary Creed thinks to herself, well, this will be entertaining, and prepares to coast to victory. The scene that first played in my head is the one where Apollo's trainer sees Donald Balboa's campaign on TV. Apollo's trainer, yo, Hill Dog, you ought to come out and look at this boy that you're going to fight on TV. Looks like he means business. Apollo Clinton, distracted. Yeah, I mean business too. Now, there's no way Donnie Balboa can win, but against all odds, he will go the distance. I'm tempted to watch this movie again to see how much farther I can stretch this metaphor. Mickey seems to be representative of the Republican Party, but I'm not quite sure how to place Adrian or Paulie. Thanks for reading this, and thank you to all the entertainment you gave out on a weekly basis. Miles, thank you so much for that tortured metaphor. I wonder if that means that Donnie Balboa took Ben Carson to the zoo. And finally, Josh Cheney writes this. We're going to end the show on this. You know what I don't understand? This is on the subject of Pepe the Frog. You know what I don't understand? No one ever takes memes seriously. And I'm being honest here. No one ever stops and really understands the memes. They just pass it off as just another shit post that was made by some edgy shit in his basement, waiting for his mom to bring him chicken tendies. These people are wrong. Memes are made by the greatest minds on the planet. Each one is carefully and delicately crafted to get the most amount of karma on Reddit. I'm led to believe that maybe even Albert Einstein made a meme. Now, I am not talking about the shitty Facebook memes that don't take any effort at all like you see for today on Bernie Sanders' page. They lack a soul. I speak only of 4chan memes and the like. Things like Dank Pepe, Dat Boy, Oh Shit What Up, and Troll Faces. Those types of memes deserve respect. They aren't trash. They are art. Oh, the heat being brought by Josh.
Politics, 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 politics.
Of course, you can email theyoungamerican@gmail.com, by The Contender, thecontender.us. Music provided by Valesco and Drop Killers. Follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere, including Snapchat. Tell you what, give me a funny face on Snapchat at Justin R. Young. Funny face on Snapchat. Download archive episodes of this show at bonerwars.com. We will see you on Wednesday.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.